LaSalle's decision to sell 46 works of art from his art museum has generated a mixed reaction on campus. Some feel that LaSalle will ultimately benefit from selling the art, others feel strongly about preserving the art, and others are indifferent to the decision. In your opinion, do you think that LaSalle's decision will ultimately have a positive or negative effect on the LaSalle community?
It's hard to answer, to determine that, to know that in advance, but I think that the publicity that was negative that the university had obviously is not beneficial. I also think that the fact that faculty were not consulted for this decision is not beneficial for the relationship between faculty and the administration. So probably that is I think the key issues, and of course the impact on the collection and the impact, the pedagogical impact, what this means for those of us who use the museum in teaching students. Like, for instance, I'm teaching philosophy of art, and we use the art museum very often. So I think these are some of the main issues.
Well, while researching reasons institutions usually have for the deaccession of artwork, the reasons are usually that the artwork is no longer relevant or useful to the purposes and activities of the university, or the object's removal will provide the means for improving the collection to further the goals of the gallery. LaSalle's reason for deaccession does not meet any of these criteria, but rather was done so that the university could reallocate assets and raise additional funds for a 5-year strategic plan called Momentum 2022. Does LaSalle's reason for deaccession qualify as a valid reason according to the deaccession standards? Isn't art supposed to be traded for equivalent art pieces, not sold for profit?
Clearly, as you said, this is a major issue, and that has created problems with museum and other organizations that have been very critical of LaSalle's decision and the handling of the deaccession. So indeed, that is the case. So that's a problematic decision.
Doesn't the sale of so many of the museum's artwork damage the legacy of Brother Daniel Burke?
It's difficult to say no to this question. I think it is true. The museum remains, of course, but the collection had an organic unity, it had an integrity that obviously has been affected, has been destroyed in part by this decision to move 46, I believe, of the most important works in the art museum from the collection. So clearly, considering that this was a collection that started with very little funds, and some of the most wonderful works that we had and were deaccessioned were the result of Brother Burke's years of dedication, of developing connections, of the respect and admiration that people had for him in the art world about what he was doing. So for sure, I mean that's not something that I think he would have appreciated if he were with us.
Are more sales planned in the future, or will any of the proceeds be used to purchase more artworks, as is customary when deaccessioning?
We do not know that. Only the administration knows that. But we hope that if this is to happen in the future, if there's going to be more sales of artworks, that the faculty will be part of this process, and that the profits will go to the development of the art museum, which is a wonderful institution or a wonderful part of the university, and deserves better treatment.
Will the deaccession of artworks weaken the teaching value of the art museum?
For sure, it has already done that. It has weakened the value, of the works in the art museum, and it has affected the collection. I mean, in a sense, if you really believe that there is an integrity in the collection, and there is, because these works were put together very carefully to represent different periods, to be consistent with the Catholic identity of the university. So if you destroy this, if you remove 46 of the most important works, you do wound the collection. So I think this is the impact of that decision on the art museum and the value of its works.